So let's go ahead and jump on in because I totally remembered to do that sick transition. And here it is. So we got, see you later, Solemn. The Narukami player actually going second, and he will hit, which means he gets to plus on hit. You take a damage, and I draw. And there's one thing that I'd like to mention is there is a couple of variations of Narukami that I see a lot come up, but only in CFA tournaments. I see a lot more Thunder Breaks on CFA than I do in like actual deck lists. So I'm curious to see what kind of grade 3 lineup this deck's going to have and how it's really going to shape up against this Gancelot. And if he even really knows much of the Gancelot matchup. But right now you see him actually dropping a crit trigger just to activate Marin skill. So I'm assuming he's like missing a grade 3 or he's missing some pieces because it looks like he's really trying to sift out something and get something into his hand. So Marin skill going to let him draw and move into this turn. He's going to have 2 attacks going through. Chris, what do you think about Gancelot versus Narukami?
I mean, it immediately comes to the fact that he needs to be so careful with his Blaster Blades, because if he starts losing them to the bind, nothing's going to bring them back. They are gone for good, and that is the main... I mean, it's literally the card that makes this whole deck run. Exculpate dies, like, the Monarch Alfred dies, like, Gancelot doesn't do anything. It's just... You really need to be careful in this matchup. I think calling down this crit is fine. I'm sure he's aware of the fact that if he rides up the Cho or something next turn, like that thing is gone. But in terms of things, it's not that risky to call it down here for now. But yeah, so that's interesting.
Looks
Apparently, Inazuma DC'd.
Yeah, so DCs are not game losses.
So I think it was early enough in the game that they can probably just remake it.
Yeah.
Potentially.
I don't think they'll reset. I think they're just going to restart the game. DCs, we actually do have a rule for this. If there is a DC, you just restart the game as long as there wasn't like a significant, like, because people can like cut their internet.
What about going first in that instance, though? Do they re-choose that?
No. So you keep who's going first. So the dice roll's already done. So the Gancelot player is still going to go first. The only thing that's going to happen is that they just have to restart the match. So Golden Time DC'd, and you can actually see it in the chat that he's not lying. So I think they're just going to restart that.
I think Inazuma was the one that DC'd, and Golden Time was the one that pointed it out.
Yes, Inazuma. Yeah, exactly. And then Inazuma talked in chat that he's doing it. So we're good to go. I think he's just going to go ahead and restart it. I'm just going to back out here. So let's just switch back to
the boys.
We got them boys. Welcome back. And we're going to figure this out and see who the next game is. I think they must already be in the next match.
Yep, they're back, it seems.
Oh, already?
Yeah.
Ooh, and
They will miss our beautiful faces, though. Like, only 5 seconds of this.
I know. Now you got to go back to the game. Back to the wonderful Cardfight area layout. So we are back into the game. Inazuma still gets to go first. Everything's fine.
So Golden Time is just asking if they really are. So just to clarify, Golden Time does tune in now. If you're already selected who goes first in the dice roll pre-DC, you are going to keep that selection going forward. So, yeah.
Imagine if it didn't. You could just, like, DC every time you go second.
Yeah, DC, and it's like, now I guess I'm going first. Now, we do actually have a rule.
Sorry, my computer exploded.
Yeah, so 2 DCs is actually a game loss.
I see.
Just so you can prevent the intentional DCing, which is another reason why we have best of 1 for Swiss with a top 16 cut. Because we don't want people that take a loss to double DC to lose the entire tournament. So there is a little bit of leeway there. But almost identical stuff happening here. He's still getting the that grade 1, the Demolition Dragon on hit draw. But now it looks like Inazuma is having a more optimal grade 2 turn with the Blaster Blade. And he's putting in the...
That is a...
Okay. I was like, maybe you shouldn't.
This matchup is really going to be about not extending Blaster Blades too much. Just one every turn. And then maybe if you know I need to kill now, then you can call a second. But definitely not more than that.
Oh, okay.
There's the Gancelot. That's pretty big.
Yeah, so now
won't do much next turn, but still important.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, either way, it's still good to allow yourself to pulse a little bit, making your Blaster Blades able to drive check. But I don't think he's going to commit much to the board next turn. just from the fear of the Gauntlet Buster or anything that would come the next turn. So this is something that I talked about in my top 4 meta-defining decks. Check out Cardfight Vision on YouTube.com, where Narukami can really change how your opponent plays, like playstyle-wise. And this is an exact matchup that I actually mentioned in the video, where the Gancelot player really has to be careful about dropping what pieces onto the board, because binding a Blaster Blade is not retrievable. So this is actually taking 2 damage now. No triggers, but he is going to swing that second.
Free draws.
Yeah, so he basically just discarded Zuiten to draw, because he dropped it on the board. It was a 9k base, and he didn't hit a trigger, so it didn't actually hit. But when you have a whole hand flooded of Zuiten, sometimes you just want to get rid of him and draw into a new card. So if he has more in hand, I think that was definitely the right play, because those Zuitens do really make those GBDs insane numbers.
Maybe he's missing a GBD.
Yeah, so maybe he's just trying to find those pieces. That's one thing you have to take into consideration when playing this game, is what pieces are they using to get what pieces out. So if you see your opponent drawing a lot, like we saw last game, he dropped a Marin and a crit trigger in front of it, we had to assume that he was probably missing a grade 3 or something, so he's trying to draw it out. Dropping a crit and counterblasting just to draw a card probably means that they're missing something. So dropping double Zuiten just to make sure he can possibly see a piece that he needs is probably pretty telling of what's in his hand. But you can see right now, Gancelot and Loading Angel on the board. I think I actually like this play. Loading Angel, is it only 5 cards? Yeah, so he's going to be able
more units.
So he's going to be able to draw.
Plus just of this one attack and not lose it anyway.
And it's almost guaranteed he has another Gancelot in hand. And if he doesn't, that just means that his next line of thought is that he doesn't need to ride Gancelot next turn. So go ahead.
Yeah, just to come back to the double Zuiten play as well, I think he already saw his opponent was playing very conservatively. So he probably already had a thought like, ooh, maybe he wouldn't even give me that many targets to retire, so the Zuiten won't even be that big to begin with. So even if he only has, let's say, like 1 left in hand, maybe the trade-off here was more worth it than keeping it. And, I don't know. I feel like there was probably another reason on top of that if he doesn't have more in hand. But we'll see now, going into the main phase, whether he did or not. But there it is. So never mind. Forget everything I just said. But yeah, so you're going to be able to use the GBD here, bind that Gancelot and pull up the Marin if he wants to. I think looks like he's going to be using the Cho-Oh first to pull the Marin, and then he can either use GBD or maybe he has a Death Scythe. That way he doesn't have to discard one for that GBD. Obviously, if he has Rising Phoenixes in hand, then yes, there we go. There's a Rising Phoenix. It's going to discard for the bind, going to be able to bring it back. It's going to be an 11k on the board. As a booster, that works perfectly fine too. It's going to be a 25k, 30k actually, because Zuiten does get another power up, and now this GBD is massive. And then on top of that, Gaibon is going to be pulling even more power after the Vanguard attacks. And
no trigger. That's like the optimal thing. Having a Cho-Oh on rear guard, swing with it, and getting no trigger is so optimal. Just because now when it restands,
hard guard this?
Oh no. So that's 20k, 30.
No.
He's sitting at 43. That's a 1 to pass. If this hits, you die. Da-na-na-na-na-na.
Though one thing I do have to say is the Royal Paladin player made this L formation, and against Narukami, that's actually really annoying for them. So the Loading Angel really helped right there in making that possible.
Okay, so my bad. I actually misread the chat. So it's not a 1 to pass. Golden Time was stating that it's a 1 to pass so far. Inazuma is still thinking about what he wants to drop to guard. He might drop 10k more, because he does need to drop 10k more for a 2 to pass, not just 5. So this.
He doesn't want to take 3 damage.
No,
here,
yeah,
so he definitely should.
He would literally die if he doesn't. But what's left in his hands for the next turn, So it's. I think committing to a 1 to pass is super risky. But yeah, he committed. That must mean he has like
maybe
a lot of great 2s in hand.
Zuiten is big, right? Like 1 trigger pushes that to 40. So maybe he just can't.
Yeah, I think even if he gets if he hits a crit, I think he loses no matter what. And there's the front.
Oh.
So that's gonna be 3
see some
damage.
Heal action.
Anything can happen. No.
Nope.
Can you imagine though?
Man.
All right, so that's gonna be that. Golden Time taking it out with Narukami.